looking at gardening with an artist's eye.
There are no wrong choices.
Cottage garden.
I'm going to show you some designs that I'm thinking of.
I don't limit myself to just one. Hi, welcome to my backyard. My name is Emily and I live in Southern California, Zone 10B, Sunset Zone 22. I am delighted to join an incredible group of gardeners to talk about the topic of the art of gardening. So if I had to name or put a label on my garden aesthetic, it would be eclectic. I don't limit myself to just one because I borrow from a variety of styles. So when you visit my garden, you will find elements of country and cottage and certainly tropical and native and Mediterranean to contemporary. Because again, there's no need to limit yourself. If you have the soil and sun conditions, have at it. They all have something to contribute, and like I said, that contrast and mix of style make it visually appealing. So that's how I would describe my aesthetic in the garden.
So now let's meet this incredible group of home gardeners and flower friends.
We'll go to Pennsylvania and meet Lynn, and to North Carolina to meet Kim and Betty, then Georgia to meet Deborah, and we'll come back home to Southern California.
Hello everybody and welcome to my garden. I garden in Southwest Pennsylvania, and this is my circle garden. It's all fenced in from the deer, and it's where I play with color. Every garden bed has a different name according to the color that I'm using in it. My pink and yellow garden was inspired by the Bleeding Heart Gold Heart, and it features gold foliage with pink flowers. The daylilies pick up that color theme and carry it into the summer. I love blush pink, whether it's the stamens in a white flower or the soft pinks of roses, the delicate blooms of a weeping cherry tree, and the soft petals of my favorite tulip, Angelique, which inspired me to take it into the studio and take some photos of it. The soft colors continue into the summer in the daylilies and the poppies. There's so many shades of pink and they can all blend together, or you can add a little contrast in darker pinks and even in dark foliage. Daylily Etched Eyes was a color inspiration for me, and I created a whole bed called the Grape and Lemonade Bed using those colors. You can never underestimate the power of foliage in creating a color palette. This is my hillside garden in the spring. The same burgundy and gold palette carries through the summer and provides a backdrop for some of the flowers. Coleus is a quick and easy way to add foliage color to show off your flowers. And they make a statement all by themselves as well. Pure white flowers are hard to find, but they really add an impact to the garden. My white crescent garden is filled with Annabelle hydrangea, which really show off from a distance when they're in bloom, even at night. Many white flowers have yellow centers, so it's fun to play with those too. In the spring, in June, and in July and August. The plum and pewter part of the garden is filled with soft gray foliage, plum foliage, and lots of plum-colored flowers. Paint can really change the mood of a garden. We painted our fence a dark bronze color. By July, it was stunningly dramatic. And in October, when the foliage changed, it was even more dramatic. The point of all this is to have fun with color. Experiment, look at what your flowers are telling you, and play with it. There are no wrong choices.
Lynn's garden is truly a retreat away from the world. I could stay there forever. Thank you, Lynn, for sharing your garden with us.
Hi guys, Kim here. Welcome to Backyard Blooms. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, Zone 8, and I have been gardening in this garden for the last 5 years. I got all my inspiration from Laura with Garden Answer, and when I went to Austria, and I fell in love with all the formal gardens and symmetry. So of course I am sitting right here in my formal garden. I have 4 different types of David Austin roses that surround me, along with the sprinter boxwoods, and I love this area, and I love to sit in this area as well. So today I want to talk about the art of gardening. Just like this canvas, it was a blank canvas, and my garden was a blank canvas. So every time we plant a tree or a shrub or a perennial or any type of annual, we are creating something on our canvas. So the first garden that I created on my canvas was called my hydrangea garden, and I like layers of 3. I like something that's got some height, and that's where my emerald green arborvitaes came in, and then I like something that has a medium length to it as well, and that's where my little lime hydrangeas came, and then I like something that's on the ground cover. So on my ground cover I have the lemon coral sedum, and I have some hardy geraniums in that garden as well. And then the next garden that I created a canvas with is my rose garden. So I have 4 different types of David Austin roses in my garden. I have Gabrielle Oak, I have Boscobel, Alexandra of Kent, and Eustacia Ive in this garden as well. And then I love, of course, the sitting area that this area provides, and I have a fire pit where I can enjoy some fire if I want to in those cold, chilly nights. And then the next garden that we created on our canvas, I call my cottage garden, which my cottage garden is starting to change a little bit into more of a shade garden because my cryptomeria trees are quite large now, and they're creating quite a bit of a shade. So I have really had fun in that garden with just types of little whimsical stuff. So I have lots of the Walkerlow nepeta. I have lots of Gara, lots of echinacea. I have lots of daylilies in there, and I'm just wanting to pack that area full with lots of colors, textures, and layers in that garden as well. So my very front garden, I love to play around with lots of color, and I specifically like to play around with petunias. So I'm going to throw pictures up of the last 4 years that I have mass planted lots of petunias, and I absolutely love it. I want everybody to drive by and say, oh my gosh, this is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. And I always play around with different seasons too. So I always throw up my tulips in the springtime, which I'm going to show images of all my tulips for the last couple of years. And then I'm also going to show you summer pictures. And then I also like to play around a little bit in the fall too with some fall colors as well. And in my skinny side garden on the side of the house, I like to play around with color there as well. So I'll always leave a little bit of long strip for different types of annuals. And I've only been gardening in that garden for the last 2 years, and I'm going to throw images of that as well. So for the last summer, I had some gorgeous Blue My Mind evolvulas in that area, and I had some surefire begonias, and they were absolutely gorgeous. So in 2023, we created a brand new garden on the west side garden, and I pretty much planted that garden up to prevent erosion. So I have lots of shrubs, some trees, and lots of bulbs in that area. So I'm very excited to share all the different daffodils and tulips that I have growing in that garden for you this spring. So I hope this video gave you some inspiration.
So, Backyard Blooms with Kim, an appropriate title for her YouTube channel, and her blooms are gorgeous.
Hey y'all, my name is Betty and I am Simply Southern Garden. I garden here in North Carolina, Zone 8. So today we're talking about the art of gardening. And gardening has always been something that I've always loved since I was very little. My dad always would give me a little allowance, and I had this cute little L-shaped flower bed and I would plant in it. Then eventually he built me some garden beds, and I just enjoyed growing veggies and all kinds of things. So as I grew up, the gardening kind of went on the back burner, and I became a dental hygienist for over 20 years, and I have 4 children, and my husband is in the Navy. But now I'm getting back to gardening because I've retired from dental hygiene, and we have a beautiful almost 1.2 acres here in North Carolina. So the art of gardening, for me, is being able to use those artistic abilities that I don't normally use every single day. So I am also an Airbnb host, and I have 3 homes. So as you can imagine, this keeps me very, very busy with all the paperwork and guest communications. And so sometimes my days don't feel very artful. But when I get into the garden, I can create. And so this year I am creating a cottage garden, and I'm so excited because I've never done a cottage garden before, but I think it's going to be so beautiful. So these are the different things that I'm thinking about as I'm walking through designing a cottage garden and being very thoughtful in the way that I think about it. So the first thing is adding a fence. So luckily we already have a fence structure here, and so that's going to be the backdrop of my cottage garden. The next thing, if you hear something down below me, these are my little puppies, and we are sitting on some dirt. So the next thing I would be thinking about in this cottage garden is adding some large trees or large shrubs. So the backdrop of the cottage garden is going to be some type of arborvitae. And in front of the arborvitae, we're going to go down in a layer, and we're going to add some hydrangeas. So we've got the fence, the arbs, and then the hydrangeas. So we're working in layers. And then down from there, we're going to add in our large shrubs and our perennials, and then our annuals. In between all of the plantings, I want to have some hardscape to help with all those light layers of flowers, and I'm looking at doing some stepping stones. So as I'm designing this garden, I'm trying to take a very artful consideration to how the garden is being designed in layers and also in the color palette. So the color palette that I'm thinking about using are going to be, of course, the green, but also whites, pinks, and purples, and then also little bits of yellow and orange. So I'm going to show you some designs that I'm thinking of, and we'll see what you think. I'm using the app called Canva to design this cottage garden. I started off by adding the arbs against the fence, and these were just imported images from the internet. Now we're going to be adding in the hydrangeas, and those will be in between the arbs. And then next we're going to be adding some of the hardscape of the stepping stones. And these don't have to be the final placement, they're just giving us an idea. Now we're adding the Lady of Shalott David Austin Rose, and some lamb's ear for texture, and the beautiful purple nepeta, and the ornamental onion, and then another David Austin, the Alnwick Rose, and then adding some hostas in the shade area, and then scattering about the garden some lavender and some hollyhocks and some foxgloves. So this is kind of my idea put down onto paper, I guess you'd say, digital image. So this is what I'm kind of thinking for our cottage garden. I hope it gave you some inspiration, and I hope to see you next time. Bye, friends.
Oh, who knew you could use Canva to plan a garden? Thank you for sharing that with us, Betty. Your cottage garden is going to be beautiful.
Just to give you a little history, I was first introduced to working the soil when I was young. I grew up on a farm of 144 acres that we worked. We also had cows, chickens, pigs, horses. So at a very young age, I was exposed to gardening. Now, as I got older, moved out on my own, my love of gardening had increased because I enjoyed creating beautiful spaces. Now, whether we were renting a house, I made a point of making sure that my yard looked pretty. How our outside look was a reflection of our values. And it was important to me because I saw it as a artful way to express myself and my taste. I started doing was looking at gardening with an artist's eye. And even though I cannot draw other than a stick person, it allowed me to envision layers, textures, color, depth, and touch when choosing, how you want your garden to reflect your style.
So, Deborah, you have tamed the beast of the Georgia clay, and your garden corner is truly an inspiration. So in my experience, the art of gardening is a process and a result, if you will, or a destination. Even though any gardener that you meet, all will tell you they are never done. Any artist really says that, right? And you may start with a plan. I start with a plan. Like I said, I started with Thriller, Filler, Spiller. But that plan was a starting point. What's important about any journey, and especially an artistic one or a creative journey, is to lean into the process and really start to listen to your intuition and your voice, because it's through that experimentation and that willingness to play, make some mistakes, fail forward, as they say. Through that process, through that journey, you start to find your creative voice. You truly find the joy in the art of gardening. I invite you to keep in touch. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy your flowers and the fragrance in the air.